And we're live, and we're going to be.
And aren't we wonderful? Really wonderful.
So I'm here to sell boxes of chocolates, Jane reckons, with my new jacket on.
I said he looks like a game show host, or he's been in the quality streets again.
And we're going to talk about our time on television tonight, and take your questions all the way through. So, you're coming in live to us, so you can kind of steer the conversation quite a lot with us by your comments, your questions, so just all the way through. Do put comments and questions. And some of you have now got the little star next to your name, you'll notice, if you've clicked that little join button that we now have at the bottom of the screen, so you can become a YouTube member. This is separate to the patrons. I'll explain a bit as we go on, but Matt will look for those ones that have got the little star next to them, because we'll give a little bit of priority for them and any patrons we spot in the questions. But anyway, all of you can ask lots of questions. We're going to talk about our time in the media, the good stuff, the bad stuff, and the absolute horrible things that have happened to us sometimes. And I think they're probably a little bit more than the good stuff sometimes. And anyone that's been on the media might chuckle at some of the stories we tell you tonight, because you've probably been there. Anybody that's struggling to get into the media will know what you're up against. And we'll say a few hellos now first before we get started then. Agility bits!
Yeah, and saying about Boo is clearly the good one. He is, yeah. He's been in the media, actually, hasn't he?
All our cats got on the telly, didn't they?
And our dog.
All the cats, yeah, and the dog, and William the dog. You have to put all the collection of them all together, shouldn't I?
Hello from rainy Hamilton, Canada. Hi. Well, I think we might have rain tonight, Craig.
I can feel the pressure building up here. We can feel thunder overhead. We might have an interesting story. Happy-go-lucky says, hi from Florida. Now that sounds nice, Florida.
And happy-go-lucky from Winchester from us.
Yeah, they got palm trees and all sorts there.
We got brambles.
Hello to you all from Madrid. A bit cold and blustery here for May. Is it really, in Madrid? Brrr. Warmer temperatures incoming through, though I fully expect to hear the iconic music from the famous Western. All right, yeah. It's cooler down there, is it?
And
Croatia, about the same line from Angie.
Yeah, it's nice, Croatia. We've been there.
I loved Croatia. Yeah, it was really quite an interesting place. We went all over it. We did the whole lot, all the places where all the battles were fought and everything like that. We should have.
I've been there too, Gothenburg, Sweden. Wish you all a good evening. Hello from Netherlands.
Oh, we've been to all over there too. First country
we
I
haven't
went
been to Japan though. We haven't been to Japan.
No, never done Japan. Hi from Australia, and we've not done Australia either. No. Really, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? Australian television. There we are. If you're listening,
Jordan. Oh, that's lovely.
Jordan. Been to the border of Jordan. I didn't.
I've always wanted to go
across.
to Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan's a nice place.
Oh,
Denise,
thank you.
Oh, thanks, Denise. That's kind of you.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. Washington, close to Washington, not in Washington itself though.
Okay.
Hi Suzanne, anywhere. We're looking at the places.
Shalom from Israel. Shalom, back to you
Shabbat
too.
Shalom. No, so it's Friday today. No, Shalom.
Yes.
Laila Tov. Good evening. No, that's good day. Bokatov. No, Laila Tov.
Ignore him. He's from Shirley, Southampton.
Hebrew. Yeah, so nice to see you guys. Well, we're going to have a chat, just me and Jane. And
how did it all start? That's how we.
Well, do you want to start at that?
I'll tell you how it all started. First of all, I was in Woman's Own, the first woman to have a water birth in Hampshire, and I had the midwife and the doctor that had to go on special training, and the Woman's Own, which was a magazine then, found it very good that a spiritual person and how everybody was involved, and then it sort of triggered from there bits, and then we had Bob Geldof that heard about us, and then we went for an audition. There were I think they auditioned 350 psychics, that's right. I didn't want to do it, but I done it because Craig wanted to do it, and I just always see these things as going up for a day out and perhaps a meal thrown in. And I remember we went there and they had a camera rolling, and because Craig gets quite excited doing these things, and he was, giving it all that, so I just thumped him, told him to be quiet, left it like that. And I can remember the next day they phoned up and said, we got good news and bad news. The good news, we'd like to have you and Craig, but the bad news, the pay isn't very good. I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll let you know tomorrow and give you good news or bad news if we're interested. Oh, we got to know now, they said. So anyway, it was quite daunting doing that because we had to get up at we had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to catch the 4 o'clock train.
So this is for the big breakfast.
Yes,
You see,
yeah.
not explained that.
Yeah.
This is for the big breakfast
Well,
show.
I think everyone's psychic and they can read my mind telepathically. That's what it is.
Show, you see.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd written to the big breakfast and they taken us in for an
Can I
audition.
finish mine? Am I
Yeah,
allowed
okay,
to? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, then we actually had a car waiting for us at Waterloo to take us on set. And remember, we never met anybody there, and we had to go in the green room. And the first person we met was Paula Yates, who was quite a pretty girl. And I remember she had a 1950s dress on and everything. She said, oh, I've been dying to meet you and Craig. And I think it's when the group Take That was first discovered, and there was all girls screaming. And of course, this one kept putting his head out the window, and young girls screamed, he loved it. And then we set on set, and I thought, what are we doing here with a guy that looks like Joe 90 from Thunderbirds? He had bright ginger carrot hair and glasses. First thing he said to us is, if you're no good, we won't have you back again. And I suggested, if you don't like the look of you, we won't be coming back again. And he laughed. And then it triggered so many things for us because it was a very successful show. Never been done anything in television like that before.
Well, you better explain to them what the show was. Because
predictions.
What it was, we'd spoken to Planet 24, which was the company behind it at the time, and Wahid Ali, who was the boss there, I think he liked us, and Charlie Parsons, who was one of the big directors there, also quite liked us because we had a lot of banter. You know, you've seen it on the show here, haven't you? We're always mucking around with each other. We're only supposed to go on for a couple of episodes, but they liked what we were doing and put us on for over a year on the show every Friday, a bit like today, I suppose, every Friday. And they wanted us, they thought, okay, you're psychics. What we want you to do is predict next week's news today. So that's where it all began, this idea of prediction. And once we did a run to begin with, just a test run, and we got everything right, including Jane said one of the Queen's corgis would die, and it died that week, and that was brand new out of the news, nothing in the news about that.
About Princess Anne.
And but those were things said on the show. But and we started doing all these different predictions, and we were getting them right every time. And they'd hold up the newspaper headlines of what we got right, and Paula Yates was putting them one up, while we were getting everything bang on, weren't we? Really quite surprised ourselves with it.
And then we done another show called The Prediction Show with Phil
Well, that's
Schofield.
much further along. You're jumping
I think that
years.
was before The Big Breakfast, actually.
No, it wasn't. Much
Wasn't it?
later.
We've done so much.
Yeah, no, our first show was some simple Kilroy was the first one we did, actually. Really sort of, oh, we've been on telly, and as soon, straight to, as seen on TV.
Or packet of dog biscuits for this one.
So we've been on telly, and the first time you go on telly, it's quite exciting. But we've done hundreds and hundreds of different bits and pieces really over our time. We've had our own shows as well. But The Big Breakfast was really the first real dead serious one we did. Did you know you were going to be? No, not really.
No, we didn't really. We didn't really.
Life.
I mean, we've had so many offers of different things and shows. We just take it in our stride, and if we want to do it, then we do it. If we don't want to do it, then we don't do it. So we're not star-struck as such. It's to us going to work, I suppose.
So the whole thing with The Big Breakfast is, first of all, we didn't get hardly any money for it. So that was a struggle. I mean, pretty much expenses, to be honest. But it was a major opportunity for us, you see, because, but ever so difficult, because like Jane started to explain, we had to go all the way to London from Southampton to get there early in the morning to start at 7 o'clock. So we were getting up at 3 o'clock at night to get ready to had to fax our predictions.
At 11 o'clock at night.
11 o'clock at night to fax
4
our
hours,
predictions. And then the
4 hours.
solicitors had to look at that and come back to us with any questions. Because, for example, I remember saying Cliff Richard would lose his voice. No, you can't say that. You can't say that. And next week, he did lose his voice. So that was a prediction stripped out. I said one about Huey Green, too. And then all the news came up about Paul Yates father actually really being Huey Green. And
Yeah,
that
that
come
was
out of
bad.
nothing. And that was stripped out. Oh, she can't have that in because she knows Huey Green.
And what about?
I didn't even know she knew
And
it.
I said that Princess Anne would get married, and the venue would be Scotland. It wasn't in mainstream
And they let
television.
that one through.
Yeah, and that one went through. It was a big, big thing, and everything. And then I suddenly got PR companies were after us, and so many people were after us. And this is a good thing, a good lesson. Only do things that you want to do, not what you're told to do, what people expect. Because sometimes they make you do the most silliest things, and it's not us. We've always got to be us, haven't we, Craig?
Yeah, well, all the way through, we had that right the way through. I mean, we weren't really going... I mean, I was very resistant about doing the ideas of predictions on television because we're mediums, you see, and we wanted to follow the same sort of route as Doris Stokes had done, really. We wanted to do mediumship. But, of course, the press aren't interested in that. They much prefer sort of headline-grabbing stuff like predictions, and they much prefer anything that's unusual or wacky. And so the real work that you do often gets buried under television's daft producers and people that often have no idea what you can do and what it's all about. You know, I mean, you'd be sort of young girls in this, about just starting off, about 17 or 18 years old. And what's a psychic then? Well, you know, what's a medium? And they haven't done the slightest bit of research, did they?
No.
So we were dealing with idiots.
And remember, we're doing all this without agents, so we've had to learn the ropes as we're going along. I can remember a young lad, this is on the Big Breakfast, he said, "May I take your handbag, Jane?" I thought, "Oh God, you're a very nice boy and well manners." He said, "Do you know my mother?" I thought, "How do I know his mother in the East End of London?" I said, "Who's your mother?" He said, "Cilla Black." I said, "Yeah, I've heard of her." And he burst out laughing, and he was really nice, and he started off as a runner to get to know the industry, and they were really awful to him. They treated him like dirt.
We saw lots of people. We met lots of
Famous
we
people.
watch telly now, and Jane says, "Oh, you know him. We saw him on the Big Breakfast." Oh, did we? They were on their way up a lot of the time, and some of them are on their way down. But we met a lot of A-listers and all sorts. But
Patrick Swayze,
yeah,
Oliver Reed,
loads.
Carly Malone,
Tom
Take
Jones.
That, and they first Tom Jones, and people. They're only people. They're only people at the end of the day. And
they
just
were-
got labels.
They were good and bad, nice. But really, it was for us. That was a major breakthrough, really, because the Big Breakfast, because it was live television and the first attempt at doing something really radical for breakfast TV, because breakfast TV before that was boring. It meant that loads of producers were going on the show, and they were cutting their teeth on this program, going off to make other programs, and they said, "Oh, we got to have Craig and Jane on." So we were getting invited to all sorts of shows, weren't we? All sorts, all over the place. We were going all over England mainly at that time, and Scotland. We were doing, and Ireland, doing all sorts of odd bits and pieces.
Now, Lynn said, and before that, did you do mediumship? Yes, we've been doing it long time before we went on television, and I think we were the first pioneers to actually, as a couple, doing that. And we were doing it. We were very dedicated, doing it every Sunday and travelling long distance for so little money. Didn't even cover the
The
petrol.
spiritualism. We used to go up to Scotland,
Yeah.
Glasgow Spiritualist Church, and Edinburgh Spiritualist Church, then London, and all over the country. And all you ever get was just got your expenses if you were lucky. So you've got to take all your time out the week to do that, mainly Sundays, but it used to be. But my God, we did years and years from early 20s.
Yeah.
I think we've done about 15 or 20 years, 15 years at least in spiritualism.
Well, yeah, we've done a lot.
We'd been
And then,
before we went.
and then you had, we done it, and then when we used to do the churches, they were all lined up down the road to see us, and we used to do it really out of service because we enjoyed doing it, but then it could take a lot out of you, so you had to rest like for a few days afterwards, and then we started doing theatres and everything, and putting our own money for theatres, didn't we, Craig?
Theatres, yeah, theatres were quite a difficult world, we found, because it was getting them filled up. The thing of the theatres, you have to do one after another to make it work, because the amount of work you put into one theatre cost you the same amount as doing 6 or 7 of them, you know. And from our point of view, it was quite difficult because we had a young child at home. So most of our work tended to be on jumping between different television shows. And I mean, let's think of some of the best ones, and those are some of the ones that were absolute rubbish as well. Because some of the rubbish that we did as well.
We had a Bunzo, is it Bunzo?
Banzai.
Yeah. Could you, if we put you into a graveyard, could you point out which grave had the electric toaster? And I thought, what the hell? And I said, no, I could not.
Banzai was a good.
I couldn't do that.
No, we turned that one down in the end. But then we had the thing that happens with psychics and mediums, of course, is mainstream media, all journalists, they all think it's a load of absolute rubbish. But it's good for the viewers. So what we want to do is we want to trap these guys. You know, everything was like traps set for you all the time. Every time you did some really good, you know, we're going in to do, you know, like Ruby Wax. I did some stuff on Ruby Wax show for her. And she was actually she was ready to trap me. You're going to go in a trance now? You're going to go in a trance? You know, no, I'm not in trance. And I started to give her a message, and she was actually quite touched because I gave her a message from Vangelis or something like that. I gave her something. It was one of the things to do with the what's not Vangelis, the Vangelis music. I've forgotten what it was. So I gave her somebody really famous that she knew. I had no idea she'd known that person. And she was really touched and actually says, I think it's better you don't go on, Craig, because you're just too good for this. I'm not going to let you. And she was quite nice, actually, because she was funny. But that was all set up by the producers to kind of push you in to make yourself look a fool. And all the time, they want you to be a performing monkey. They want to take something that is really what we
sacred.
Do is a sacred office, I say. It's a sacred office, isn't it? It's sacred what we do, and turn it into a sort of a jumping through hoops nonsense.
Yeah. Well, and I can remember, I won't name the company because I can remember they wanted us and we had to go to this hotel. And something didn't feel right because I had my grandmother that came through and I kept seeing lights go around the room. It was sort of like what I call spirit lights. And I thought, this is strange. And so I go downstairs to give this so-called person a reading. And he was most odd. He had all white makeup on and that. And you're going to be my tarots, love. And that. And Craig had spotted it as well. And
this is Shirley Ghostman you're talking about.
Yeah,
this was an absolute entrappers sort of thing, actually, that was. And I spotted what was going on. I thought, this is not on. And I pulled on it completely. But basically, they had it, because we'd done the Spirit of Diana programme, and we'd made a lot of headlines on that because we became quite famous for a while on that because of that programme. Infamous, I should say, because, again, that was all tried to turn against us. But we did the Spirit of Diana, where we did a seance to connect with the Spirit of Diana, which the press loved to vilify a bit, actually. But then Shirley Ghostman, a comedian, wanted to pretend he's the medium, was supposed to be learning from us to do his thing. And then, of course, he was going to do absolute nonsense. One of the things they were doing is for example, they would want this. We got out of it. I spotted what was going on.
The crew,
but others that went on, what they were doing is getting the audience to look at films of horrible things like live operations on animals and things like
accidents.
That. So the people were looking with horrified faces like this, you know. And of course, then they were going to cut that audience shot into when the medium speaks and says something, so that as if what I've said is so horrifying, they got this horrible audience reaction. And they can get away with this because it's comedy, right? But, you know, they don't tell you that when you're going on. And, you know, they also had the skeptics thing, like the skeptic Chris French was brought in and completely fooled by it all. He thought he was a real psychic and things like that. So they did both sides. That's how they would justify it. But what a waste of our time.
Yeah.
Why do you want to do all that nonsense?
And then I told him off, the producer, Jane Stahl, and we left. And so they wouldn't have got a show out of us. And then there's another
The thingy there just said a minute ago, you should have your own show on television. But you see, the problem is, if we had our own show on television, what they do is try to change it.
Yes.
They changed Craig and Jane. That's, let's have it so that switch it all around or do something different with it and do that. And next thing you know, you're not yourself. And next thing you know, you're in the same boat again.
Yeah.
Where you can't do, you know, you offer them caviar, but they want pickled onions. You know, they want rubbish.
They try to get you a
spoil
third
it.
discovery.
Yeah.
I can remember once I took my mother on a cruise, Craig and I, to go to Russia, and we had a company that contacted us. Could we work with them for 6 weeks? So we didn't even have time to recuperate, and we had to do so many things. You know, I'm talking about bio channel, Craig, and we had to go and do psychic pets.
You're talking about our psychic family series.
Yes, we had to do all these different things, and we worked so hard, about 12 hours a day. They never discuss money. They just say it's the accountant. Well, fair enough. And so I had to cancel all my appointments, same as Craig. It cost us money doing these things, actually. I mean, they were quite good to work with, but we worked really, really hard, and then they show it on the biography channel, and then they want us to pick somebody to audition to be one of our, if you like, trainees, psychics, don't they?
Yeah.
And also I'm talking
don't forget to keep your questions and comments coming, guys, because you can steer the show, you know, the more you put in, and
right.
we'll react to what you're saying and things like that.
Then we had worked for a producer in the BBC, and she had hidden agendas, and they were focusing on readings that we were doing. And I remember I gave this girl a reading that her friend had got murdered, and she came through and said, tell her that she's 8 weeks pregnant. And I told her, and her other friend that sat in with her said, "You're not, are you?" "Yes, I am, actually. I didn't want to tell you." And then they tried to twist it and say, "Give it to this other medium," you know who I'm talking about, and see if you can get more. They were trying to play one up against the other,
what
play
they
games.
actually did with that show is they decided that one of the mediums, this is on the BBC, this is, I mean, Matthew Smith won't mind just talking to Matthew, what was it, the psychic barber, what's his name?
Gordon
Smith. A nice fella, actually. But what they had in mind was Gordon Smith would be the accurate medium that is about to tumble, because as soon as he goes to America, he's going to be corrupted. That was the plan.
Yeah.
Craig and Jane, wannabe psychics who were teaching others to be just as bad as they were. The blind psychic, who was Sharon something or other, a very lovely lady too, who's stumbling around in the dark. So they didn't show any good bits from her. I mean, some of the stuff we did for the demonstrations, the evidence.
Fantastic.
Thank you for that, by the way. Some of the evidence and things people gave us was amazing. We gave incredible proofs, but none of that was shown. All they want to do is show the little funny bits, because they decide that you're going to be this, you're going to be that, you're going to be that, and you're going to be that.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, editing happens in TV, but they didn't really show anything about the truth, what goes behind mediumship. And that was the BBC, and that was shocking, I thought, the way they handled all that. And you're giving up 2 years' work, really, on filming that lot over the series.
And I can remember another show called The Predictions Show. That was with Phil Schofield.
He was nice, wasn't he?
Yeah, I took a sixth former that was interested working in the media from Barton Pevel College, and he was so sweet because he gave her a personal interview and helped her and that. And our predictions, what we've done, we had to be locked in the Bank of England, and they had to compare who's the best psychics and all that. Of course, we came on top, of course, because our predictions came out. And you know, and all I can say from personal experience, he was a good guy. And remember, television can make you look good, it can make you look bad, because it's all edited and they're not looking for the truths and that. So you've got to be your own person and very strong to start with. And you know, the predictions, he was great to work with, wasn't he, Craig?
Yeah, he was. We did do a lot. I see Stanley stuck in there. Did you do any ghost hunts on TV?
Yes.
We did quite a few, actually, and that's interesting too, what goes on with all that, because most of the ghost hunt stuff was done by Derek Acora on Most Haunted, and frankly I was shocked what went on that show, for the cameramen we spoke to who'd been on that show, and the things that were done that made it look like it was ghosts and pretending it was ghosts. Frankly, I mean, that was a complete, I can't say any much more than that because I don't want to be libelous, but there was so much went on some of these ghost shows that really just takes the public for fools. I think when you do a ghost show, what you've got to really do with that is you've got to see. We did one, for example, I did one on, what was it called? Animal X, I think it was called. It was a channel, and what they wanted us to do on that one is could we pick up the ghosts of this previous building that had been alleged, we didn't know it, but apparently it was the last place that a bear had been seen, and the ghost of a bear was supposed to haunt it. Well, They took us in the middle of nowhere. We didn't know where we were going. Didn't know anything about the show. We were given no brief, so we were blindfolded, so we didn't know where the location was. And myself and my circle took into a place where we had to tell them what was here, and we described the castle. We were able to explain what happened, and we picked up on all the things correctly, strangely enough. And they had two archaeologists who were confirming or denying what we said. So that was an energy where you're picking up on place, and it was well ordered because it had criteria in place where people were checking it. We could have got nothing out of that show because we got there and got nothing, but good on Animal X. They had archaeologists that could confirm or not what we were getting right. But these other shows with the ghost shows, it's just people throwing stones in the dark and jumping at shadows and doing the silliest of things. And I felt that completely undermined all the good work that mediums do. So the ghost shows, I would take everything of that with a complete pinch of salt.
Yeah.
They're a bit of fun, great, but that's how it has to be seen. Yeah, Most Haunted was ridiculous, absolute ridiculous program, and it used to make me cross, really. But that's moved on.
Thank you,
from
Mary.
That,
Was that Mary? Yeah, thank you.
But now we've got YouTube. And we've got Facebook, and we've got you can have your own channel. We don't have to have a producer breathing down our neck telling what we can and cannot do, And although YouTube set a lot of criteria, which is fair enough, that we don't want abusive stuff on channels, but at the same time, what you see on television is often so choreographed that you can't believe what you see. It's very hard to tell what's true and what's not, I think.
Right. Now, this person says, Craig, how can you do predictions when you're forced to do them, like for a TV show tomorrow, or are they expected to do it in a certain situation? Well, we're natural clairvoyants and mediums, so when we go in a meditation state, we see predictions, and it's all about what you're seeing, and that it don't necessarily saying we're seeing bad things happen, because we don't see that. But Craig and I are people that we do what we do because we enjoy it, and we don't get people to force us to do anything. I don't.
No, we've become a lot more strong with these things, and when you think about what we've been offered on television, we have turned down massive amounts. We turned down Most Haunted, didn't we? We turned down
Psychic Detective, turned down.
Most of Living TV stuff we
turned that down, and then you've had other ones that suddenly they've panicked, these TV companies, and they've got some unknown psychics, and suddenly they might have just been on thing, and they're making out as if they're famous. Fame's got nothing to do with this work. This work is a gift, and it's a service to others. We do it really because
we enjoyed it. But mind you, television is also fun. It is fun to do. It's fun to do this show too. It's lovely, great fun to do it. Love doing it. But that's our natural way. I think when you've got a gift, you've got to share it with the world. If you're an artist, you would want to exhibit, wouldn't you? You have to. You don't want to hide it in the attic.
We've even been flown to Los Angeles with to meet up with Endemol, top company, and we've gone into meetings.
That wasn't Endemol. That was Big Brother Endemol. We did Big Brother.
I'm talking about Los Angeles. Yeah. And we've even had the courage to turn around and say thank you, no thank you, because it's not us, and that. And then they try to promote their own sort of people. Okay, they can do that, but then that person that's doing it, that medium, hasn't had the experience what we've had, and it's true. And and we've turned around and more or less said to them, no, we're a bit above that, thank you. And we've been stamped by royal approval.
saying that, the worst one I think I've ever done was the Squid Game, which was Squid Game the Challenge, and I said no to it at first. And because they thought they'd seen us, I think, on YouTube and that, and they liked us, and saying to me, Craig, we'd like you on the show to do the Squid Game. This was where you do a real life reenactment of the Squid Game. You've probably seen it. It was on Netflix. But my God, and I said, no, I'm not going to do it. And then the grandchildren go, you've got to do it, Granddad, you've got to do that, Squid Game. Oh, go on then, I'll go and have a go at that one. And it was sort of like a challenge. But my God, that was such a dangerous set they put us onto there. I got shot out in the beginning part of it. and it went absolutely. The people were falling down with the cold, and I
Hypothermia.
still have problems from that show actually,
Yeah.
because I was getting cramps on it, and on my hand I couldn't hold a knife and fork, could I?
No, when
It
he
was so
came
cold with
when he came
hypothermia.
home, I had to put a hot water bottle in his hands. He was shaking like that, and you know, some of these production companies are just users, and they get you all excited, saying, "Yeah, the executives are very keen on you." And I shouldn't be saying this to you, Craig, but they were talking about you. They definitely want you. It's a load of bullshit.
But I mean, a lot of them went out and sued them and things like that. But I wouldn't have done that because it wasn't actually the fault of the production company, in my
It's the
opinion.
weather.
It was that they couldn't anticipate for the cold. But I thought what a waste of time that was, you know. And there were people going back, all sobbing because this is their first chance on TV. you
Yeah.
know. So television's a pretty cruel world, actually. And anything you do in television, you've got to have a pretty thick skin.
Yeah.
I think Psychic Detectives, we did. I did some stuff for that. I did some stuff for trying to find this. What's his name? Lord Lucan. I couldn't think of his name now. Did a bit of stuff over Lord Lucan, which was quite fun. But and also went up to Scotland once. I remember I can't remember the show now. We're looking for the body of somebody that had been killed. It wasn't the Moors murders. They're quite interesting, those type of things. I think the Americans do that a bit better than we do over here.
Yeah, but then you get typecast if you start doing that, and then it comes like a circus because everybody. I can remember on the Big Breakfast, I had Keith Johnson, Winnie Johnson's mother, because I said something about glasses and about with an S shape, and she said that. You know, that's true. He did have that belt round him and that. Then they want you to go up to the moors and with a metal detector and everything. And you can't make promises like that.
I think if it's done in the right way, it's all right.
Yeah, you can't make
The problem
promises.
is television's there to entertain.
It is.
And this is always where television always found it difficult in the past, because when we started off, you couldn't do mediumship on TV. That's why we always had to have skeptics with us. That's why I was always battling against the likes of Richard Dawkins or Susan Blackmore or Chris French and things, always having debates and things like that and arguments. But you're never actually able to show your gift.
Why should we be tested by magicians and skeptics?
But they have to say, is it
You want to balance it.
Is it entertainment? Is it documentary? Or is it religious? And it has to fall into one of those categories. And each one has different rules. But religious, of course, it was very hard to get on BBC with it because it was the Christians that had decided what the religious rules were, and mediumship was necromancy, and therefore it couldn't be shown. So there's only recent years that mediumship has started to...
Well, everybody's a medium now. You've got to look on Facebook, hold up an angel card and they're a medium.
My husband was told by Spirit to be a medium. He's excellent, but worries it wouldn't provide enough money. What do you think?
Well, you're never going to be very wealthy to be a medium, and you're not doing it for money. If you're dedicated and things like that, you have to do a service. I mean, I can honestly say television doesn't pay lots of money to change your life. The only thing I think that people get famous is when they die.
But
Famous
also,
painters.
with being a medium, it is very, very difficult to if you're doing it properly. Now, I assume your husband wants to be a medium as opposed to a psychic, you see. So a person that do endless tarot card readings, maybe they can make a living with that when you're starting out, but it's pretty tough going even that. But it's not mediumistic. If you're doing mediumship, as a good medium will know, you can't do more than a couple a day if you're lucky, really, because it burns you out so much, you know. And you know, even if you're building your power up like we're doing yoga and eating correctly and doing everything right to keep your spirit body up, it's still very, very tiring. And you can't demand, particularly if you're starting off, you're fighting against lots of people that are working unemployed. All the unemployed go and buy themselves sets of tarot cards and do it black market. So if you're trying to be a professional and you're competing against people down the road that are charging a couple of quid to do a reading, you're stumped straight away, because the black market damages the, not black market, but you know what I mean, the undercurrent market damages the work that professionals would do. And so it is tough. It is not impossible. We did it.
Yeah, and remember, if you're going to be a professional, you've got to pay tax and you've got to pay a chartered accountant and things and keep your books straight, because you're always going to get somebody that when you're successful, they'll get jealous of you, want to stab you in the back, won't they?
Yeah, you've got to do it all properly and above board, and that also is difficult when you're competing against those that are out there. But it doesn't mean you can't do it, and it's become a lot easier nowadays. When me and Jane used to do it, we have to rely always on local people, and that was always harder. Nowadays, of course, with the internet, I do my readings on Zoom, so I get people from all over the world, so I can command quite a high price for my readings. Really, I could, I don't. I could charge a hell of a lot more, but I don't. I think that has to be within reason. I think as well, but then people who can afford it or value it from all over the world. But locally, you're going to get people like saying, "Let's go and have a laugh." Oh, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? And you can't be dealing with that. So it's very hard to do it on a professional level, to get it up to a proper high standard, and to be able to use your gift properly and to get the right sort of clients takes years, really. Because now I get clients, and Jane does too, we get clients who are, well-heeled clients, we get clients who are famous. And I mean, today you had someone that was an actor, didn't you, today? I mean, we get all sorts of people.
I even have doctors and solicitors, but I do tell them off if they're late, because if they're professional, they should know better and be on time.
But that's
and I
taken
do
us
tell
years
them.
and years and years to
yeah,
get that
it didn't just
position.
happen overnight.
And sometimes you used to be starting off, and you think, God, I'm doing all this, and people don't understand what you've just told them. You say something, you give them a piece of evidence that is really amazing, and they go, "Oh, he's great, isn't he, Tracy?"
Yeah. What about, because you're not getting mediums doing church services because they pay them so little, don't they? Like
Spiritualism's absolutely had
like
it.
£10, and that's that poor chapel woman's day. They've given up on a Sunday, and some of the evidence, you're so shocked.
Yeah, I mean, we went to a spiritualist church for the first time in a long time the other Sunday, and people in the audience were laughing because it was so
Bad.
ridiculous. I mean, it was ridiculous. I was giggling too because the things that were being said were just stupid.
Like,
and it wasn't, they can't get the mediums.
Like they're saying to Craig, Spirit tells me you wear red washing up gloves. This guy's never washed up in his life since he's been married to me.
In rubber gloves. I said, you'd be lucky. They're red rubber gloves. No, I'm sorry. I mean, that was all he could give. Red rubber gloves. I mean, that's hardly mediumship, is it?
No. Did you ever meet Sylvia Brown?
No,
I'm on the fence. No, we
really
can't really comment. We haven't met Sylvia Brown. We've met Doris Stokes, John Stokes, and Coral Polge, and
she's not someone I particularly warmed to.
Well, I mean, this woman used to give predictions in the year 3000. So how can we possibly know?
Some of them, she got coronavirus, they reckon. Because some of the stuff
but
she said
so
in one
did
of her
all the
books.
others, according to them.
But she said every other thing under the sun as well. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's a
She's
lot of
dead
really
now,
good mediums
isn't she?
out there now that people don't know about.
Yeah.
There's loads of good people out there actually who should have had more recognition. And not worked with Gordon Smith. He's a nice guy, though.
Wait a minute. No, that's not true. Gordon Smith, we have met on a personal level. He was on the same programme and privileged to be on the programme that we were on.
The BBC Everyman
Everyman. And then he, funny enough, he said, I know you from somewhere, don't I? I said, well, you should do. You worked on the same programme.
But they kept us all apart on the show.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we think he's an accurate medium. He's a good medium.
I think he's a
one
nice
of those
man.
that I would say go and see. Good.
Yeah,
good.
But it's like
medium.
Gordon Higginson was the main medium. But I really liked Stephen O'Brien because he didn't have an ego. He's quite humble and he's very sincere. And he got knocked by the BBC and ridiculed on the Terry Wogan show. And I felt so sorry for him because he went to this woman in the audience, but actually it was for the woman behind that woman. And I remember her saying, I haven't got a sister. And it must have made his self-esteem that low. And that. So you've got to think on your feet with all this all the time.
Yeah, Stephen O'Brien, really nice medium. He's based in Wales. Look him up. He needs a website that someone needs to update. But he's got his own little centre there that he does readings from near Swansea Way, I think it is. Really good medium,
Now-
written some brilliant books, and really deserves more recognition. He's not on YouTube, unfortunately.
Yeah. You met Reverend Colin Fry. What a lovely, generous psych. I was so sad he had to cross over. Well, Colin Fry was exactly like a standard medium, like all the other mediums. And it was just at that particular time, they were looking for a John Edwards, because John Edwards in America was very popular and everything like that. You know, and it's like mediumship. It's not about the fame and the glory, the success. You're working for the spirit world. But he's one of your favourite people, wasn't he? Fry?
Me and Colin Fry did not get on very well at all with each other, actually, and we nearly had a huge court case actually that went through. So I can't really talk too much about it. But he started to try to rubbish me on television, and when we got all the clips together, there was hours of it. He went on every show and so we put a case together, and we were going to pull him off TV actually, because it was such a lot of bad blood. He didn't like the Spirit of Diana program we did. And as it happened, we ended up dropping it. So
and
it's
there's
not
this
something...
guy that didn't like the Spirit of Diana, and then he goes and does the Cray twins.
Yeah, I know. So we didn't get on with him very well. So anyway, his work's what's important, not the person. And if you've had good evidence from him, that's the important bit, you know. So that was my feelings with that one. How did you meet? Oh, that's a whole huge story, that one, I tell you. We met through Doris Stokes, the medium, not through media or anything like that, although the theme today's the TV. But Doris Stokes went on to be a very famous TV medium in the first one, really.
Brilliant.
Brilliant, she was. And she told me I'd meet Jane, in short, and she told me the date I'd meet Jane, 6th of March, and it did, 9 years later on the 6th of March. She said her name would be Jane Wallace. It was Jane Willis. But at the time when I did the communication, I was in a spiritualist church, and I was doing a communication for someone in the spirit that I said is called Wallace, which happened to be Jane's grandmother. So Doris Stokes got all of that right and said about how we would meet, when we would meet. We'd do a program on that properly for you sometime, and we've done one before, but it might be nice to revisit that sometime.
And I can remember before I met Craig, I sent my thoughts and prayers to this lot upstairs, said I like a nice spiritual man, see what you lot upstairs could do, but I don't want an ugly one. He just chuckled, and something told me, hey,
failed on that front.
Well, you said it anyway. And then I went to the church, and then Craig gave me a reading, and he came to me for a reading. The rest is history. So we've been married 36 years, and we'll be in our 37th year.
And strangely enough, Doris Stokes saw, because at that time I was working in advertising. I was a single parent on my own, working and running an advertising agency. Quite a hell of a life, very, very different to mediumship. I was very, very interested in it, but she said, you're going to be a medium, you're going to be a famous medium. I thought, how do I know that then? I'm working in advertising. You are. And it all fired up from that. Things happened and came into my life, and she saw pretty much most of my destiny ahead. She said she couldn't predict. She said she couldn't predict anything. I'm a medium, I can't predict. But she laid out my life in great detail, including how I'd meet Jane and everything. So I think in that respect, it makes me wonder, don't you think that mediums, when you're working in TV properly and something's taken into your life, there's a certain amount of destiny that comes into being a medium proper. You can pretend to be a medium and try to be a medium and want to be a medium, but unless destiny's singled you out, I don't think the mediumistic gift proper comes to you. You know, you might be able to do a bit of psychic stuff or pretend ghost programs, like I said. Okay, you might meet fame from that. But if you're really a medium, you have to be selected by it. I think, and I didn't want to be a medium, really. That's another long story. I didn't really want to be a medium. But what happened is that we were pulled out. And I think Jane did too, weren't we? We were fated. We were fated to date, and we were fated to mate.
Watch it.
Were fated to do this program too, you know. But and it all works out. The Nardis too have shown me all that. I believe in a kind of a predestiny, a kind of a laid out track that we can travel, or we can choose not to. We have free will. But I think, you know, the going on telly and that was an important part of our growth as mediums. But frankly, it's not the most important work we've done. I think when you look back at the end of our lives and we look back and we say, what's the most important things we've done? Some of the most important stuff, aside from all the stuff you do in your life with your families and things. But in our spiritual work, I think it's the one-to-one readings often, or sometimes simple messages that you've done that have transformed somebody's life. Most of the television and things is just a load of fluff, really. And even the work we've done with celebrities, it's lovely to do work with high level people like that, but nothing really comes much from it, really. Ultimately, you might introduce another celebrity and they all kind of want it a bit cheaper than it, because they're a celebrity, they should have nothing. So it kind of the most important work is not always the most what you think is the most important. It's the,
we've met people
stuff.
like Julia Roberts' brother Eric Roberts, and been in the homes and had coffee and things, and they're just people at the end of the day. They're just actors.
Well,
let's
he was
pretend.
absolutely fabulous.
He was a lovely
Smashing
man,
bloke.
and his wife Liza was lovely, and we've met some lovely people and famous people. But at the end of the day, they're only people.
Yeah, I'm not glitz by glitz, actually, because I don't care if a person's rich or famous. You see, I don't care what people think about me. So why should I care what people are or aren't? You know, if I meet somebody famous, I think, well, great. I want to know that person in and itself. I want to know who that person really is. I don't give a damn about whether they've got this or that, or whether they've done this or that. If they've done great work, yes, I'd admire the work, but the person I'm interested in. And I think that's the difference that what Jane and I have. We're not fazed by that. They're just ordinary people like you and me, and they got exactly the same troubles and problems as you and me. The things that worry them most are exactly the same things as you and me, you know. And they just sometimes other things get magnified because the horrors that come with fame, really, because fame can also be a terrible burden for people sometimes too.
Now,
at heart, they're ordinary people.
What predictions shocked you, as you were saying? I don't think you get shocked by our predictions. I mean, we're not there to shock people or do bad things, but we can...
Surprised.
Yes, you can surprise, but it's like when you see these things, you can't stop it. You can't stop world events. You can't stop wars or anything, because once again, as Craig was saying, it's destiny. We can't... I mean, the world's in a terrible state at the moment, and what worries me, all this stabbing, like we saw that chap stabbing a 14-year-old boy going to school and things, and even I can't get my head around, if this is karma, why does these terrible things happen? I think it's awakening that people are going through realisation, and that we've got to change this world because it's getting out of hand. Do you, Craig?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what prediction shocked me, actually, because nothing really does kind of shock you when you do it, because you're kind of in a neutral state. You don't. It's almost like watching the telly, you know. It's almost this is what you see, and that's it. And when you see it on television, then you think, oh my God, that's horrible. That's what I was seeing, you know. Oh God, the war in Ukraine. Oh God, Gaza being bombed. Yeah. Oh God,
it's like the Twin Towers
you
and
see
that.
It.
Why do these people said they saw it? Why don't they come forward before it happens, not after the event happens?
Well, this is what goes on. People, that one certain person I remember in one of the newspapers saying he told his friend about it, but that's no good. You've got to put it out there somewhere. If you've got to qualify a prediction, you can't say it after the event. That's not fair.
That's right.
Easy to do it that way, isn't it? Anybody could do that. So so they don't always shock us actually. Divin, it's not really always a shock thing.
Best messages we gave on TV. We've given so many to say what we evaluated, but I mean, I suppose the best ones is that we want to see good things.
I think the Psychic Britain programme that we did with the pilot, that one we did down in Reading Town Hall. The Reading Town Hall stuff.
Oh yeah, and we've got testimonials, and we will put those testimonials up. And you're dealing with real people, and it's like, you know, we always have to rest a bit before we do all these events and everything, but to actually communicate and give evidential proof to that person, it might be very little things to somebody else, but it's big things to that person. And
it's not easy to do it on television. I know that John Edward, for example, will say he won't give messages to the person that's interviewing him. And I think that's a very sensible thing to do, because they often say, okay, tell me something about me, tell me something about me.
Freebies.
And as if you can just pull it like that, and you think, well, actually, it's not like that. You've got to kind of get into the zone with these things. You've got to get into the right frame of mind. It's a very sensitive and deep thing, but they kind of see you as some performing person that can just pull
Monkeys.
things out of the air. And I think he was very sensitive. He talks a lot of very sensible stuff. Actually, he does sometimes with that, because I think it's very hard for all of us mediums that work in the media. You know, I think Van Praagh does a good job personally as well. I like his work. Because I think he's a clever, intelligent man, and I like to see intelligent people working like that. But I remember seeing him on the show. Some guy put a YouTube up debunking him, as it were, who booked a reading with him, videoed it over Zoom, and then tried to make it look like the guy didn't know anything. When obviously the guy receiving the reading was just wanting to debunk him in the first place.
That's dreadful.
And I thought, well, that's, you know, we get this all the time, you know, and what good can come from it? There's a lot of very blinkered people, and there's a lot of very blinkered people in the TV industry, and there's a lot of extremely stupid people in the TV industry who I'm surprised just do not do their research, and yet they're putting programs out and haven't got the faintest idea
There's some
what they're
people
talking
that
about.
haven't got real talent, and they think by having these fake hairdos and false eyelashes, nails, and overweight that they're going to be famous, and they'll take themselves to Hollywood. You've got to have talent to start with.
Television is all about what's visually presentable. Everything's got to be over the top. It's got to be bright. That's why they're more interested in that than they are in the content.
Yeah.
They don't give a damn about whether it's true or not. They just want to make sure it looks good.
Yeah. Well, James Randi was after me and Craig for a long time.
Did we go on with James Randi?
No, we didn't go on with James Randi. He was after us. We turned it down because I was looking.
That's the one we turned down, didn't we?
Yeah, because I was looking at autocues, and something when you know the production team are not looking you directly in the eyes, looking down, you know they're up to something. And James Randi was only, in my view, a failed magician. In my view, a conjurer. And and all this Barham effect, a circus thing going back in the Victorian times. Barnum. How can you possibly justify that against somebody that's gifted? It's a load of nonsense.
No, we never did cross swords with James Randi.
No.
I'm pleased to say. I would not have liked to have dealt with him.
He's dead now, isn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, you've got to still have. You've still got to. You know, I mean, okay, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, but I don't think a conjurer is the one to be dealing with that. I think I would much. I actually had quite a lot of admiration for Richard Dawkins. I actually liked him as a man because
He's intellectual.
I liked his arguments, even though I felt we could counter them. But Randi, I felt, was more about James Randi, and I never felt comfortable with him. But anyway, I never crossed swords with him, so just as well. And I quite get on with some of the skeptics. Actually, I mean, we went to the that place in Los Angeles, didn't we? What was it? The Magic Castle.
Oh yeah.
Where James Randi had his.
This is funny. Craig's talking like he always does, and just shut up. We're in this funny Victorian castle. It's like bits of plastic put together with blue tack.
It's a place in Los Angeles called the Magic Castle.
I was just sat there, mind my own business and that, because Craig's always hungry, looking for food and things. And this woman come over and said, "Hey, Jane Hamilton Parker, I've seen you on a show." And I thought, who is this woman? And I thought, we don't realise, Craig and I, how we're known worldwide, but we just take it as a pinch of salt, don't we, Craig?
The Magic Castle, you see, was like the Magic Circle. It was the place where all the magicians met. And we had a really lovely friend there that invited us in.
Brooke.
Brooks. And they have their own seance room, which is brilliant setup, when all sorts of things would go on. The piano would play by itself and all these sort of things.
Set up.
And it was a place that James Randi was well known and would go to. But we were in with the magician circle there, and a lot of the magicians,
didn't like him.
Were saying, well, we don't like this attitude with people like James Randi. We don't, okay, Houdini had this big thing about it, and everybody wants to be the next Houdini, so they feel they got to attack psychics. And actually, most of the people there were actually genuinely interested
nice people.
in, could there be real magic, as it were? Could it really be possible to do these miraculous things, such as communicate with the spirit world? And some of them had very open minds. They were all very pleasant. Yeah. So I think, the idea that magicians have to sort of be scathingly sceptical, or even comedians. I mean, I like a lot. We get on quite a few with a few comedians in our time too. But comedians seem to think always you've got to be aggressively attack mediums because we're obviously fakes. So we all miss out that way, I think. But But then there are fakes as well. But, you know, as I've said, I've seen lots of real. It does get seriously dodgy if people are being ripped off by people who haven't got it, genuinely haven't
Because a lot
got
of
it,
people
and are just
say,
out to try to
if you've got a
fleece
gift,
people.
you shouldn't charge. I said, well, perhaps a vicar shouldn't charge, and perhaps a grave digger shouldn't charge, perhaps a doctor shouldn't charge. So where do you draw the line?
Yeah, everybody's got to have a living. I think within reason,
Yeah.
you know. But even so, even if you climb to the top of your field, you should be able to charge. It's always a difficult thing. But I mean, people sort of say to us, "Oh, you gave it, you made fortunes out of this." We never did make huge money out of television itself. We lost more money than ever went in. I think when you add up all the shows together, we put it all together as a whole, probably a loser. But also, I gave up a advertising agency when I had loads of people working for me, and I had clients such as British Airways, Zurich Life, Esso Petroleum, Midland Bank, which became HSBC, and loads of major clients, major. I built up as an advertising agent, and when me and Jane met, I turned my back on all that and said I really like to do the mediumistic work. So if I'd carried
What did
on
I
that
say
route,
to you,
we'd have
Craig?
been multi-millionaires.
Come on my pathway and we'll work together.
Yeah. So
And
we gave
have.
it all up, and it was really tough. So if anybody says to me, "Oh, you do it all for the money," I think, "Well, mate, you think would you give up that sort of career as a managing director of a very successful company? You know, with those sort of clients in the early 20s, when you could have, you know, yachts and the rest of it. No, you give it all up in order to do what you got to do."
And it's interesting because recently I've met some people, very wealthy people, say like solicitors, got big companies and that, and they suddenly awakened and want to do good work, spiritual work, and get more into this because they said, all my life, Jane, I've been making money and I want to do good with it. I said, well, now you've got an opportunity to do that because we've got to help those less fortunate in life, and you know, and it creates good karma. Life can't always be about making money. As long as you've got money for food, a roof over your head, then you're very blessed. And I'm a great believer in families, great believer in sharing.
Well,
Craig?
I'm a great believer in people helping you make money, actually, because actually,
A great believer in food.
everything has to be paid for. So those of you that are watching and know me, I always say the gifts this year, but the patrons allow us to make this set here possible. It's your donations that keep it going. So if you'd like to give to the patrons, it'll be in the description of the video. And this is a charitable type of a not-for-profit company that does this. Alternatively, we also now have, if you want to help me and Jane personally, you can also click the join button at the bottom of the video, which would make you a YouTube member. That doesn't go into the trust, that goes into our pockets. So you can either do either
Well, it
way.
certainly haven't gone into mine.
no, right. But it's not huge amounts. But you know that all these little bits help us to keep doing this nowadays, and allow us to keep this channel going. And the more you help us, the more we can keep the channel, and the more time we can devote to it, the more effort and research and time and we can do to make sure that we can give you a good show, guys. And you know, everybody's got to have a living as well. So you've got two choices, and all of our other stuff, you can go and look at our website in the description. You can find readings with Jane and myself all in there, and all our services we offer. So there we go. And so we finish on a sales pitch. Right, I think that's coming to the end, Jane. Yeah.
Oh, we've got a few more minutes.
Yeah.
minutes.
On 2 minutes in television's a long time.
Yes, well, there you are. Stop talking.
No,
So-
we're finished now. I think the time's ready to go. So thanks for joining us again today, folks. We'll see you all soon.
And do write your comments on YouTube. We'll get back to you.
Okie doke. Bye for now.
Bye. Ciao. But I just feel she's in a better place.
I agree.
Better place. And so one has to feel, you know, my darling, you know, your wishes come true.
And he's given me the feeling that at the end, there's something I put into the coffin with him, he's saying here, something that was very emotionally significant to you. And you wrote something that was poetic with it, because I feel as if I put something poetic. It's only a stanza of a verse. It's about 4 lines.
Oh, that's true. Both these people, everything they said about the stuff they talked about, they were accurate. They are the real deal, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit. I'm not a mind blower, you know, by nature, but you know, it was real, and all crap aside, it was real.
Fascinating. Remember, our psychic mediums have never met the people in these circles and know nothing about them. While the crew sets up for Craig's seance, let's see what the participants of Jane's seance thought of what just happened.
Well, I suppose I wasn't really quite sure what to expect when I came. It was different.
It was interesting to me to find out that Diana came across so strongly as knowing what I was doing. And that came across very clearly in what she said to me. And that she was there and that she knew the work I was doing. That was quite powerful for me. Even the one who calls himself a cynic was very much part of it.
I found it terribly hard to relate the Diana I knew to being a spirit. And I used to see her regularly, sometimes 3 times a week, sometimes twice a day. And I'm a shocking cynic, but I did feel something during that. And there were 1 or 2 things that came out which only Diana and I perhaps knew. So perhaps I'm not quite so cynical.
Another remarkable seance. I wonder if the people at Craig's seance will be as convinced and enthusiastic as those who sat at Jane's. Let's find out.
It was very interesting, though, and it was very nice to see how everybody else was going, hey, yeah, wow. That was kind of cool that happened, too, because nobody had any idea who was who and what was what, so there was nothing set up, and we knew nothing that was going to happen next. So.
Oh, I found it fascinating.
Certainly the questions that were being put to us, or the comments that were made to us. If your memory was 100%, you could remember every one of those occasions that he spoke about, you know, right down to the nitty-gritty in the kitchens with the children. It all made sense, you know.
And the pear drops were definitely something. I mean, we used to buy them specially and have them in the office so that she could have them whenever she wanted them. And it was always, don't tell anybody, I'm not supposed to have these, you know. So that was fantastic. I actually blew my mind.
There was a contact there on everything he said.